Hello and welcome to my DP World colleagues. So nice to have you here for our session. My name is Michael Brett Hood, and believe it or not, I spent 25 years as a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's right, the FBI. And I spent the majority of my career in fraud. So I investigated thousands upon thousands of cases involving fraud, and I arrested hundreds of people that committed fraud. And if there's one thing that I learned, it's that good people can make bad decisions. And when they make that first bad decision, to which they're not always consciously aware, they usually compound it by making a second and third decision, trying to get up from that slippery slope, but instead it drags them down farther. And this is where your fraud risk services from the Home Office and your global team of fraud risk champions come into play. They can help people before they get too far down that slippery slope. But before we get to that point, let's ask ourselves a question. I'm going to show you a slide that has a number graph on it. Left is number 1, right is number 10, and it's going to have a question on top, and I'm going to have you rate yourself based on this question. So, are you ready? Because here we go. What I want you to do is use this scale to rate yourself ethically. If you are not ethical at all, give yourself a 1. If you are very ethical, give yourself a 10. If you are in the middle, give yourself a 5. So I think it's time for me to pull out the crystal ball. Let me get with my friends at the Fraud Risk Services Office and my global fraud risk champions, and let me see. I'm willing to bet that almost all of you rated yourself at least a 7. A 7 or above. That's what I'm thinking. Because I've done this exercise hundreds of times, and there are very few times when people rate themselves below a 7. But let me give you my number. If I were to rate myself ethically on a scale of 1 to 10, I would choose the number 5, because I'm right in the middle. And what I think you're going to find is that many people, even though they don't think they are, many people are 5s. It just depends on the circumstances. So what I'm going to ask you to do is answer a second question for me. Now take a look at the behavior listed here. Think about it. If you think the behavior is very bad, give it a 1 or 2. If you think the behavior is not bad at all, give it a 9 or 10. If it's somewhere in the middle, give it a 5. Okay, be honest with me. How many of you, when they read that question, you started laughing out loud, right? It's Netflix. Who cares? They're a multi-million-dollar company, right? And plus, I paid for the service. It's up to me to how I want to use it. That is the excuse that I normally get when I do this exercise. But in reality, if you look at it, aren't you violating the Netflix agreement, the one that no one ever reads? Because if you read it, you would see that you're not supposed to do that. But the purpose of this question was to show you how quickly your brain can get to work and start rationalizing and justifying decisions in your house, in your personal life, and in the workplace. And so what normally happens in any workplace, including DP World, is someone comes across an opportunity to do something unethical. And their brain gets to work. And before they even know it, they've rationalized it and they've justified it in their heads before they take that first step down the slippery slope. Here's where the Fraud Risk Services from the Home Office and the global team of fraud risk champions can help. If you have any questions, call them because they can help navigate you through these situations where your brain is going to get to work and to start telling you that this is okay, when in reality, it's not. So let's ask one more question for you. Once again, here is a behavior for you to consider. Take a look at it, think about it. If you think the behavior is very bad, give it a 1 or a 2. If you think it's not bad at all, give it a 9 or a 10. And if it's in the middle, give it a 5. Thought my crystal ball a little bit. Let me talk to the fraud risk services of the home office. Let me talk to my global risk champions. And I believe that most of you will rate that pretty highly. What that is called is a conflict of interest. The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, to which I am a faculty member, define conflict of interest as an undisclosed economic or personal interest in a matter that influences your official role in the organization. So basically, what most conflict of interest involve is steering a decision made on behalf of DP World to an organization where I receive an economic or personal benefit without DP World's knowledge. Now, most of you are going to say, like, I would never do that. But there's another concept we need to talk about. It's called willful blindness. And it's what many of the people I arrested fell victim to, and they weren't even aware of it. So when you get in a situation like that, you will be tempted. It's only natural. But what happens is your brain gets to work without you even realizing it. And it alters and transforms facts and situations to make it appear that the logical and right decision is to succumb to that personal or economic interest that is undisclosed. But what happens is, if you get someone from the outside to look at it, they clearly see the ethical dimensions that your brain has purposely kept out of the equation. This is where the fraud risk services from the Home Office Division and the Global Risk Champions can help, because they can provide that set of eyes to help you navigate through these ethical dilemmas in the right and proper way. Contact them. Give them the scenario before you take that first step down the slippery slope. Now let's talk about another situation in regards to conflict of interest, because you are likely to be working in your position and notice that someone else might be succumbing to the conflict of interest problem. And even though it is your duty to report it to DP World Fraud Risk Services or the Global Champions, you're going to be hesitant to do so because it has a negative connotation to it. But I ask you this: if you saw one of your colleagues, if you saw one of your friends who was looking at their cell phone and not paying attention to what was happening, and they were about to walk into a busy street, would you not go up to them and grab them before they walked into that busy street to save their lives? If you report something to the fraud risk services from the Home Office or the Global Risk, the Global Fraud Champions, this is exactly what you're doing. You're saving that person. You're saving them from getting in trouble, getting fired, and even in some cases, from going to prison. As we spoke earlier, falling down the slippery slope is easy. We can all rationalize our behaviors, even when we do something wrong. But if we employ methods to assist us in how we look at things, how we interpret the things around us, if we are vested in helping our colleagues maintain their ethicality, because all of you want to be higher than a 7. But some of us, because of situations, we can't. But we all want to be there. And sometimes it just takes a little help from our friends and your colleagues who work at the Fraud Risk Services Division in the Home Office and your global fraud risk champions are here to help you. All you have to do is contact them, and there are multiple ways to do so. So I hope you have enjoyed our session. I know I have. I'm going to leave you with my contact information. You can find me on LinkedIn. I post a number of articles on LinkedIn that are free. You will also have my website, my email address, and my phone number. If I can ever help you in any way, please do not hesitate to ask. Lastly, I thank you for spending the time in this session, and I look forward to seeing all of you again sometime in the near future. Thank you so much, everyone.